Come find out how easy it is to paint Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader from the new Legion starter.
Spikey bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer, and today we're going to show you just how easy it is to paint these two awesome characters from the new Star Wars Legion starter and set you up with the skills you need to paint the other characters that are on the way. So let's jump over to the paint table and take a look at these two bad boys. Okay, so we have Luke and Darth Vader, of course, right here. Now we painted these up for the brand new release of Star Wars Legion, and it has been a very exciting time here in the studio. Now I do have a confession to make. I only spent about an hour painting Luke Skywalker on the right, believe it or not. So it's actually very easy to paint him. And Vader I probably spent about 2 hours on. I had to wait for some stuff to dry. So it's actually pretty easy using the Army Painter system, and consequently are 7 easy steps to painting these miniatures to get them done pretty fast and not have to spend a whole lot of time on the hobby table and actually get out there and play with your new models and the brand new game. So we'll start with Vader first. I think this might be the one that folks are quite possibly the most excited about here. Now we did the desert base. We're not going to cover that in this video right here because that is a completely separate tutorial that's also in both of the how to paint Stormtrooper and how to paint Rebel videos, so you can check that one out separately. But long story short, you just use some desert yellow primer from Army Painter, work it up with a couple of dry brush and hit it with some of their tufts, and you're good to go. So with all of our painting tutorials here for the new Star Wars Legion, it's only 7 steps. You primer and base coat, which, go back, you had to go back and get underneath the cape. So we sprayed it with matte black primer from the Army Painter. Why it's so important to use the Army Painter? I'm not just trying to sell you something you don't need. Literally, this is important because the Army Painter color match system means that whatever color you're spraying out of their aerosol cans, you're also going to be able to match with a paint pot for easy cleanup and for touch-ups with the other colors, such as the gray here, which is huge because that's kind of how Vader works, right? So we sprayed it with matte black, then we went in and we had to take a little bit of our matte black paint pot and get in here and in the cape and stuff, because you're not going to be able to actually get the spray up in there. So get you a good primer job and a good base coat to build from for your actual second step, which is the base coat itself. So now that you're gonna have your miniature all black, brand new looking, it's time to go in and line out all of those juicy lines you see here in our figure. Now you're probably like, holy cow, that's a lot of work. I'm not ready for that. I'm just starting out with painting. I don't know what to do. Well, there's a couple of easy tips I can give you. And I apologize for not having the actual tutorial here. Like I said, this took about 2 hours to do. We had to get it done for our videos and such, so I just kind of nugged through it and wasn't able to record everything. So one of the shortcuts I'm going to tell you about today is get a little bit of paint on your brush, just like so. And instead of going in here and lining every little thing and getting all nervous that you're going to mess up, and if you do mess up, it is okay. Because remember, we got the color match black. If you get a little gray on the black, it's no big deal. You can go back with the black, and the black isn't going to look different on the other black. It's not going to be too shiny. It's not going to be too dull. It's going to match 100%. No joke. Believe me. So take some of your gray, your base coat gray, which in this case, we started with Necromancer gray. It doesn't seem like it's different, but trust me, it's dark. It's just light enough that you will start to notice a difference here, right? So you're going to go in and get a little paint on your brush, and all you have to do is go perpendicular. You don't even have to get in here like, how did I get that line so crisp? All I did was I actually cheated. That's what I did was, it's secretly easy. All you got to do is cheat to paint. You get a little paint on your brush and you just pull it just like this down the very crisp edge, making that super sharp line. Same thing here with these edges and all of this around here. And always rotate the miniature so that you are painting in a general direction. Now, That's not going to work for all these edges, obviously. You are going to have to get in here and do a little bit of direct brush work on his leg thermal garments, or whatever you want to call them. I'm not exactly sure. Vader's clothes. We'll go with that. Not his robes, his clothes. So you got to get in there and do some of that. And then the alternating areas here we also did. Depending on which Vader you're trying to match, because they're all kind of different on the buttons and such, I just pulled up the picture off Google and just went with it. You know, it might not be the historically accurate Vader, but I'm pretty happy with it. So we got in there and we checked all those off. We checked all this padding off. We went in here and did a little bit of work on the hand. Again, that's more direct brush issues and strokes. Always pull the brush towards you instead of away from you. That will give you the most control, and use your pinkies and your elbows to stabilize your hand. At this point too, we kind of watered down the paint a little bit with some of the WARPAINTS mixing medium, also from Army Painter. I would say about 50-50. And what this is, it's the paint without the pigment. So I guess it's technically the binder, I want to say. And what it does is it thins down your paint without making a loss of like cohesion of the paint itself. So long story short, you can spread the same color over greater distances without being as dark. And that's what we did up here. We just base coated all this flat surface because there's nothing to highlight here except for the edge, which we also did on the helmet. We just kind of did the whole line because it's so small. So we hit all that area, and following the same rule of thumb, we just did the whole cape. And it'll take you about 20 minutes or so to do all that. Next step is going to be number 3. Now that you have all your base coats done, oops, excuse me. So we're still almost to step number 3. You're gonna have to base coat the rest of your stuff here. Just grab any blue, any red, and any green you want to hit some of those buttons and such, and a little bit of metal here for this chain and also his lightsaber. I used gunmetal for all that. Now, step number 3, gloss coat. Grab you some spray gloss coat. If you live in the South or areas of the United States or areas of the world that's prone to humidity, you want to be very careful here. You can use a normal spray gloss coat, but be very careful that it doesn't craze up and you're not using it in high humidity, and that there isn't a whole lot of particulates in the air like dust and such. Try to hold the can, approximately 9 inches, I guess that's between 20 and 25 centimeters away from what you're working on, and just spray it down. I personally use Model Master's smaller cans of just straight gloss. I find that they work in just about any atmospheric conditions except extreme cold. I don't live in a region with extreme cold, so I don't know enough about that, unfortunately. I would say most time I'm priming, it's in temperatures between 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and I haven't had a problem yet in both high and low humidity situations. So spray down your model with gloss coat. Again, if you're checking out our how to paint bases tutorial, you will be able to see kind of how to properly spray your models. I put them on a board and I kind of rotate the board with my hand underneath it and spray it at a 360 kind of roundabout fashion. It will be very glossy, so you're gonna have to let it dry. Don't grab the base. You might, get your thumbprints and stuff in it because it's just like paint. You might not be able to see it. It's literally invisible looking, except for it'll look like you have a bit of a sheen. So let that dry off. An important thing to note about Model Master clear coats and gloss coats is you don't want to put them in front of a fan because it could cause what they call spidering, I guess, spider webs, to where it kind of looks like a little frost look, like the glaze coat kind of crackles, and you don't want that either. So don't, just let it air dry, just naturally, just let it air dry, it's fine. Come back after all that, and step 4 is your wash. And over black, over a very dark color, you don't have to do much work here. You're literally just gonna grab the pot of your dark tone, wash, make sure it says wash and not ink. Grab a pot of this, load up your brush. I like to use a wedge brush of whatever brand, it doesn't really matter. You can go synthetic, you can go sable hair, whatever you want. As long as it's a brush that has a little bit of control on the edge and will hold all of that liquid, it's good to go. And then you're going to coat your whole model with this strong tone all over, just like we did with the Rebel tutorials. the Rebel and the Stormtrooper tutorial, and then you're going to come back and dab out any sections where the wash may kind of pool, like this, you know, down here under the arms, in the face maybe, and stuff like that. Just dab it off with a wet brush, a wet clean brush. Dab it off and, you know, try to remove as much from your brush as possible. Set it down, let that dry. Then we move on to step 5, which are your highlights. And your highlights are literally what you just did before. I generally start with the same color I just did, which, remember, it's going to be darker now because we did a wash. So I'll go back with Necromancer Cloak, kind of see where we're at, if we need to go higher, or if we need to stay lower. And from that point, I'll select a secondary highlight color, in this case, Castle Grayskull. Vader has the power. And we'll go in and we'll start edging those areas, but not all of the areas. Like you see right here is the only spot I edged. And some of these areas here, like around the hand and stuff, where it would be the most light, where the most light would hit it. Some of the areas like the nose, the tops of the capes. You don't have to hit all of the areas, just the majority where you would see the most grabbing of light, I guess. So, like, imagine your light source is here and it's hitting like this. It's going to hit the top of your hand, the top of your nose, just wherever you would put sunscreen, I guess, if you were kind of a person, and a person named Vader with a crazy looking lightsaber. So we just go in and we do all that. I think at this point we went ahead, did all our highlights with all our more buttons and such here, and then we started working on the lightsaber because it wasn't time to seal it up or anything like that. So the lightsaber was actually very easy. We started with a base coat of the darkest red, a chaotic red, and this is what we use on our Adeptus Custodes tutorial that's out there as well, how to paint reds. And then we took a little bit of dragon red, which is our mid-tone, and we mixed it with, again, the war paint mixing medium, which is going to thin it down but not lose any cohesion of the color itself. And we just started about halfway up the lightsaber and just pulled the paint towards the end and let that dry. And then we did the same thing with pure red. Just mixed it up very light and pulled it towards the end of the lightsaber. Thinned it down, of course. And then at some point, I think I just gave it a very, very light, I would say 3 parts of that mixing medium to 1 part of the red coat all over it, and a little bit more of the red just on the very tip of the lightsaber itself. And from that point, it was time to do the base, which is a separate tutorial. Again, check out the Stormtrooper or the Rebels tutorial and to see exactly how we did that. Then we spray coated it, sealed it up with a little bit of matte sealer. Again, you can use dull coat from Model Masters, which I personally prefer, but Army Painter has a matte sealer as well. But be careful depending on what atmospheric conditions you are using out there. Step number 7, we just added in a little bit of the tufts afterwards, because you don't want to do a matte seal and then add tufts, because it'll make your tufts look frosted, and this isn't winter, this is the desert. There is no frosted tufts here. And last but certainly not least, we took a little bit of Army Painter gloss varnish, which I think that I have put away, but it's in the same style pot, and we gloss varnished the lightsaber and the spots right there on his chest, and also his eyes, made them nice and glossy there and super, super scary looking. So I think he really, really kind of came together after all those effects. Took about 2 hours between drying time and getting all the coats and stuff on there. Just take it slow, nice and easy, and edge everything out as best you can. And if you need any touch-ups, matte black, 100% color match, get in there and touch up any gray that you got off of all those folds. Now, for Vader's rules himself in the game, you've probably already seen these at this point, but he's 200 points. He has 6 big attacks in combat with the best combat dice there is, 3 force upgrade slots, 8 health. He rolls 1 red die for each wound that is attempted, or for each hit that gets through, and he only moves 1. However, he does have the ability to be immune to pierce. He can deflect, so if you have a block token on the table and you activate it, you could deflect attacks back at the sufferer if on a surge you get a block. He is relentless, so after you perform a move, you may perform a free attack action. If you reach base, you get to swing. He has Impact 3 and Pierce 3. And Impact, all your keywords are always on the back of the card. Impact does changes 3 crits to, or 3 hits to crits if the attacking, if the target or the defending unit has armor. Pierce 3 cancels up to 3 block results. It's pretty brutal, and his command cards themselves are pretty good. It could allow him to move 3 times in 1 turn. If you do Implacable, that could be the case, although you will have 1 fewer actions, which makes sense because they don't want you to move forward with him. That would just be ridiculous. If you activate 2 troopers here, they may suffer 1 rune to perform 1 free action, and Master of Evil, whenever he is issued an order, he gains a dodge token, which is super helpful. When he activates, each enemy trooper at range 1 to 2 gains 3 suppression tokens, which is pretty brutal. It's going to force you to try to clear those with one of your actions that aren't covered in the starter set, actually, so you may not know what those are. As far as upgrade cards go, he has access to Saber Throw, Force Reflexes, Force Choke, Force Push, Jedi Mind Trick, and Battle Meditation. I'm going to leave those all up there so you can check them out at your leisure. Of course, they have the points cost listed next to them there. Saber Throw is pretty cool. Definitely allows him to do 3 damage as a ranged attack, which will cost you 1 action. All these other ones are free actions, and this is just kind of a bonus. When you issue orders, one of those orders can be issued to any friendly unit on the battlefield, regardless of range. Up next is Luke Skywalker, and this didn't nearly take as long to paint as Vader. So first off, we gave it a primer coat of desert yellow and went in with our brush, 100% color match desert yellow paint, and hit any areas that we needed to that weren't completely covered by the primer. And then we started base coating the model itself, a little leather brown on the boots and straps and Jedi utility belt right there. That's where he keeps his Jedi Batarang, and a little bit of black on the blaster and on the hilt of the lightsaber handle, and then we hit that back up with gunmetal before we washed it, before we moved on to step 4 of the wash. For the face and the flesh, we just hit it with a little barbarian flesh to get a nice solid coat all over those hands, the neck right there, and the face itself. Once all our base coats were complete, we hit it with a little gloss varnish. Again, I prefer the Model Masters, but you can certainly use any of the stuff from Army Painter, just because I live in the South and we need that sort of flexibility and not messing up our spray. After that is all dry, we're going to grab a little bit of the strong tone. Make sure you grab the one that says washes and not ink. You're going to want to evenly, as possible, starting at the top, work your way down from the top with the wash and dab off any areas that start to glip glop or get Klingons on them. You're not going to want that to pull up and look sort of messy. Now the next step is usually highlights. What I actually did was up here, I kind of winged the whole hair right here. At this point, we were already desert yellow, so I just came in with a little lighter, like a yellow itself. In this case, Babe Blonde, and just edge highlighted all of that hair right there. So we just went in and we just kind of went at an angle here, perpendicular, just like we did with Vader's capes, and nugged all that out, and I think it looks great. The fatigues themselves, I never highlighted. That is exactly how they looked after the wash, and we gave it a matte coat eventually, but that is exactly how they looked. And for the skin, I think I went back with a little barbarian flesh and then mixed in some elven flesh to give it a little bit more definition around some of the higher areas there. Now you could spend a half an hour and do some eyes and such, and we have tutorials on how to do that here on the channel, but I feel like there's enough definition there that it isn't off-putting and you don't see like a blob face or anything like that. Again, this took an hour to paint, so spending half an hour on eyes just seemed like a waste of time at that point, just trying to get these guys on the table and get playing. The lightsaber was a lot easier too. We just base coated that with Viking blue. And then mixed in a little bit of troglodyte blue. I think we just went straight troglodyte blue, but thinned it down with a little of the WARPAINTS mixing medium. Started pulling it from about halfway down the lightsaber here towards the top. After we got a nice solid base coat of that, we mixed in a little bit of stone golem. And then I think we went eventually stone golem as well, keeping track of making sure it was thin with the mixing medium so that we could pull it and it can be a little bit translucent and some of the darker blue from underneath would show through. And at the very top, we just kind of dabbed it with a little bit of that same mix just in case we got any scrapes or anything on the end of the lightsaber. At that point, all the highlights were done as best as I could tell. I think I might have dotted some of the buttons and such there on the packs with the Necromancer cloak. And then we just sprayed it with our matte sealer. Again, Army Painters got one. I used the dull coat from Model Masters because of the South, because humidity. You never know when it's going to go from 14 to 70 degrees in 1 week's time. It's crazy. It's probably what killed the dinosaurs. I'm not sure yet. That might not be factual. Somebody look it up on the internet for me. Then after we got our seal done, we added our tufts and our base. And at that point, just a little bit of gloss varnish, brush on to the lightsaber itself, and we were good to go. Luke Skywalker, 7 steps in about an hour. Now, as far as rules go for Luke, you've probably already seen his unit card here. He is 40 points cheaper than Vader. Not quite as offensively really good. I don't know, those weren't words, but he's not a juggernaut in the same regard as Vader, but he never really was in, you know, the early movies, I suppose. He does have jump, which will allow you to jump over some of the height terrains instead of a separate action. That really doesn't pertain to the demo game, but it is going to be something you need to start worrying about in your later games. He has 2 force upgrade slots and an equipment slot, I believe, here. But in the starter, the only equipment card is the targeting scopes, which pertain more to aim, or that pertain to aim, allows you to reroll up to an additional dice. So 3 dice there, which is pretty neat for 6 points. He does have charge, just like Vader has an ability to move and get a free melee attack weapon, a free attack action. This guy, Luke, will get a specific melee attack. So Vader could technically throw his lightsaber where Luke has to perform a melee attack. Deflect, same ability as Vader, so he will, if he has a dodge token on a surge and spends it on a surge, fling back one of the attacks against the attacker if you get a block. He is immune to pierce. As far as the lightsaber goes, he has 6 black dice, which isn't quite as good as the red dice, but it's still okay. However, his blaster pistol is pretty good. It's got pierce, it's got a 2 red, which is also pretty good. And remember too, he has 2 actions, and he can also charge and get a melee attack off. So one of yours could be run, and if that hits the enemy, well, then you'll get a melee attack. But before that, why not shoot him twice? And if you have, you know, some way to get an aim for free, well, that would be even good. I don't think there is a way, actually. Impact, of course, is going to change your hits to crits if the target has armor, and Pierce is going to negate 2 block results. Not quite as good as Vader again, but he is 40 points left. So he also has access to this saber throw, which I feel like probably is not good for him when he's rocking blacks, and he could just shoot with 2 reds right there. He does have force reflexes, which will give him a dodge token for a free action. Can do Jedi mind tricks, can do force push, and can do force choke. Although, isn't that part of your fall to the dark side, I suppose? I don't know. And there isn't any of those rules in this game, I suppose. And then as far as his orders go, he has the big 3, of course, because that's what commanders do. His 1 pip, after he performs his first attack, he may perform 1 additional action. So that could, you know, potentially get you a free dodge token if you take out a unit, or I don't know, maybe an extra aim. Don't know what the combo might be right there that you would want, but it's something to consider. He could activate 2 troopers for 2 pips. When a friendly unit is issued an order, it gains 1 dodge token, which is great for those rebel troopers that benefit greatly from spending a dodge token and getting a dodge token back. But hey, what's better than spending 1 dodge token? Spending 2 dodge tokens. That's the correct answer. And 3, his Return of the Jedi order is him and 2 units. Whenever he's issued an order, he gains a dodge token, which is pretty clutch. He doesn't have to free action for it, assuming you have the upgrade. And when Luke Skywalker activates, each friendly trooper at range 1 to 3 may remove 1 suppression token. So maybe that'll clear some of those Jedi mind tricks off of folks, or even Vader throwing out 3 at a grip with his order ability right there might help just a little bit. But either way, I think overall, while he isn't Vader, he never really was Vader, and I like that FFG kind of reflects that in the game itself. So that is about it for our showcase on how to paint Luke and Darth Vader for new Star Wars Legion game, and a little bit of a rules preview for them as well. I'm sure we will see a lot more upgrades in the expansion sets themselves, as well as the new stuff that's coming out between Wave 2 and whatever they decide to show us at Gen Con. I am super stoked to see what else is on the way after seeing everything for Wave 1 already. So that's it for this one. Thank you all for watching so much. It's been a blast to record all of these features on the new Legions. If you want to check out the other content we have on here, lots of painting tutorials already dropped, more on the way, battle reports, and all sorts of things as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all these videos, and head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.